Hi, welcome to Lecture 4, Part 2, Student Outcomes. So this lecture in particular will focus on the reading overview, obviously, and then we're going to review the student learning goal process and then examine methods for best approaches to aligning student outcomes to growth goals. Really quickly, here are your readings, and I'll be bringing them in between the screen for us to review. But we only have 2 this week. Sorry, this is a typo. We are focusing on pages 20 through 24 in the Nevada Educator Performance Evaluation System document. And then you have one article to read, which shouldn't be too long. It's only about 22 pages, and most of it are actual examples. So those should be pretty useful to you, especially for next year. Before we begin the bulk of the discussion, I wanted to go into the Nevada Educator Performance Evaluation document and remind you of a few things. So remember, the Nevada Educator Performance Framework goals are centered within the 4 goals. Goal 1, foster student learning and growth. Goal 2, improve educators' effective instructional practices. Goal 3, inform human capital decisions based on a professional growth system. And then Goal 4, engage stakeholders in the continuous improvement and monitoring of a professional growth system. So this lecture and this module in particular focus on fostering student learning and growth. Next week we'll look at improving educators' effective instructional practices, which may include a little bit of goal number 4. We won't touch goal number 3 during this course because it's a little bit different. However, so as we get started, just keep those in mind. But as we discuss student learning goals, so why do they matter? Well, obviously, and I think this is kind of the unfair part of teaching. Student learning outcomes are directly associated with your ability to teach in some ways. Some people use those as indicators to determine if you have a job next year, which to me is kind of a little biased, only because of the fact that, if a student comes into your class and they're way below grade level, you didn't cause them to be below grade level, but now you have the responsibility of getting them to their grade level within a very short period of time. And some people may see that if you don't get them to where they need to be, then you may not be performing at the level that you should, which is not the case. So the student learning goals is not actually for that. It is an approach to measuring student learning and the impact a teacher has on student learning. So that impact could be great or it could be minor, but the idea that a student is in your class for a whole semester or a whole year, there should be some type of impact that is measurable by the goals that you have set for them. So the process, the Nevada Educator Performance Evaluation System goes through this process with regards to setting the student learning goals. So you develop and approve the student learning goals, which you will either either at the end of this term when you went over your final evaluation, or you'll do it next year. And then 2, monitor progress towards student learning goal, mid-cycle review conference, and then you have the evaluate attainment of the student learning goal, which you just finished. And sometimes they talk about next year, but I'm not exactly sure of your administrators. The key thing to remember with these steps is that step 1, you really are developing and improving the goal setting and the planning tool. So this would be how you plan on tracking and assessing the students. For some of you, this is already set in place, the tracking tool. So all you have to do is just show the tracking tool through the activities that you're doing in your class. Others of you have to create the tool, so that might mean creating some type of document or a Microsoft Excel sheet that tracks the standards and the student's performance along with it, each of the strands that go into the standards that they have. Monitoring the progress has to do with your day-to-day activities. So you're evaluating everything that's going on in the classroom, from your assessments all the way to to your day-to-day activities that you're assigning to the students. So we're going to focus on step 2 and your project for this course, the midterm project, meaning that you should be able to show how you're monitoring the progress and how you're creating the environment within your lesson that demonstrates to your evaluator, to your administrator, look, this is how I've been looking at students' progress. This is how I've been tracking and monitoring. If this monitoring system is already set in place, then there should be evidence built into your lesson that shows how you're contributing to the progress monitoring, meaning that if you're saying to students or you're saying to your administrator, I'm working on students' ability to collaborate with one another, there should be a lot of collaboration. There should be a lot of intentional instructional approaches that ensure that students have an opportunity to exchange dialogue with each other, which could go from role playing to creating a play to a debate to a trial. I had a mock trial one time. That's pretty interesting. But there's so many different ways. And then the last step is 3, to evaluate. The evaluation process obviously will be the assessing of your assessments. And that typically does not happen until the end of the year sometimes, or mid-quarter. So with that being said, and feel free, 20 through 24 is very detailed. So it's short, 4 pages, but it'll give you a lot of information. With that being said, in our second reading, the author talks about how to kind of set this up in a way that's very strategic. So the key thing here is that aligning teaching with intended learning outcomes, it does take work. And I'm not saying that this is something that you could just do overnight. You have to come in with the intentionality that you are developing everything around those goals using your tracking method that has been approved or that you have established, and showing through or monitoring through your day-to-day lessons what you are intending to accomplish for both you and the students. So obviously your growth goal is their student outcome goal. So it's tricky, but you can get it done. This article really breaks it down in a great way with how you should be aligning your teaching with the intended learning outcomes. First, they talk about designing a plan for teaching and learning, some important considerations, which is a quote that I took from here. And then they go into some details about key features of the active classroom. We will briefly go over those because I only have about 3 minutes to finish this up. And then please make sure you look at the examples. They give examples of all the strategies that they mention in the article. So it should be really useful for you. But choosing high quality assessments is an integral component of the SOG process. A quality assessment provides an indication of the degree to which a teacher has impacted his or her students' learning in the course. So at the end of, you already know this, at the end of your lesson or of your week of lessons, there should be some type of assessment that shows the progression of you tracking and monitoring the growth of the student. So this is like the ultimate, and these are your classroom assessments, not necessarily your school-wide assessments or your end-of-course exams. These are things that you should be able to evidently see through every activity that you're doing. So some of the things that they've discussed here, number 1, alignment with content standards, alignment with the intended level of rigor, a psychometric quality of validity and reliability to as high degree as feasible, and monitoring includes alignment, instrument security, reliability, validity, comparability, feasibility, and scoring. So keep in mind that when selecting any teaching and learning method, it is obviously important to ensure that the method will enable the students to achieve what they are intended to achieve in their learning outcomes. There are different kinds of methods available, and then some of them are more effective in building up subjective knowledge, while some make more contribution to developing generic skills. So you have to be sure about which ones that you're choosing. They have some examples in the reading. Lastly, when you have gotten to a place where your alignment, you have learned how to show your growth goals and what students are doing in order to track student outcomes, your classroom should be pretty active. So I like the use of the active classroom because it really summarizes what should be happening on all these stages. So the 4 features of an active classroom include thinking, task focus, teamwork, and transcendence beyond the normal classroom. A classroom that's well managed can look like it's functioning well with limited student outcomes, meaning that a third of the class is doing well, a fourth of the class is struggling, and then you have the other percentage that's just staying equal. In an ideal situation, your class is live, is active, and everyone is able to grow, and you're able to track that growth with everything that you're doing. Everything is aligned in a way that is seamless, meaning that the end of your year can be seen through every aspect of each part of the year, and then make it micro to each lesson that contributes to each day of the year. So this is what they're trying to get you to see in this actual article. Hopefully you will enjoy the reading, or you have enjoyed the reading and you've taken from it how to better align. I'm going to wrap up here. Some final thoughts and additional curriculum. This guy does a great job. It talked about data and how influential it can be. It's really short and brief compared to the other ones. But remember that aligning student outcomes to our goals begins during our first steps of planning. If you're starting the first steps now, putting these things in place will make a huge difference for next year. Goals you have set for student growth goals should be evident in everything that you do. So if your growth goals are to grow students in their vocabulary, you should see a vocabulary lesson throughout the times of the week. It should be evident that they're using this vocabulary in different ways, and that they have opportunities to obtain this skill in a growth way. So meaning basic, and then they move up the Bloom's taxonomy levels throughout the lesson. So hopefully, sorry, had to go brief. I'm trying to make sure that these stay really short. Hopefully you gain what you need from this lecture. If not, please let me know, and I'll give some more details. But the key thing here is alignment. Everything should be able to be seen. So from using the example from last lecture, you should be able to integrate that suggestion from your outcome of your evaluation into the aspects of your lessons using some of these examples of activities that you can plan. Okay, that's it for me. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope that you can get everything done so you can enjoy your Memorial weekend. Have a great day.